Hey everybody, what are we doing here? All right everybody, it's Landon with Apollo Energy. I want to give you an update on the project we're doing today. So this customer reached out to us about a month ago. So what we're actually doing is going to take their existing solar system and add a battery system to it. So that way when the grid fails, they'll still have all the power they need and be able to run the house how they want it to and take advantage of all the sun that they're getting even when the grid is down. Plus, we're on top of the world. Look at these mountains. All right, so right now, the homeowner, they have an existing solar system, but the disadvantage that solar has is it's connected to the grid. So as soon as the grid goes down or you have a blackout or anything like that in your area, you're going to lose all power to the solar system as well. But by installing a battery system, when the grid fails, it'll actually switch over to the batteries immediately. And that way it'll keep your solar running if it's the middle of the day, and then at night you could draw off the batteries instead of losing power to the home. It's just like having a backup generator, but the only difference is the fuel source. With a battery system, the fuel source is the sun. With a backup generator, it's either going to be gas, propane, or natural gas, something along those lines. So this is the existing solar system. It's a SMA Sunny Boy. They only have 4.8 kilowatts of PV connected or solar connected to this system. So what we're going to do is we're going to intercept the wires at the disconnect. We're going to run everything up and then go through their garage and down into their basement where the sub panel's at, and that's also where we will install the Sonnen system and the non-essential loads and the essential loads panel. That way when the grid here fails, everything's going to be taken over by the Sonnen system and power the entire house. They'll always have power when the grid's gone down because of the battery system will keep the solar alive. And so the solar system is on the outside wall here where the garage is. And so what we're trying to do is run the feeder, the wires for the solar system to tie into the battery system. We need to get them from that exterior wall all the way through this duct and then over to this wall so that we can punch through and tie into the existing sub panel and where the batteries are going to go. One thing you're going to want to ask yourself is, what do you want to power and for how long do you want to power those devices? So then we come to the electrical panel and we look at all the circuits that we can or cannot power. In this case, this homeowner is going with the Sonnen Core unit, just because there are some rebates in our local utility here for anybody installing those, that they'll get a discount on those units for installing these. And the Sonnen Core actually will satisfy all the needs that the homeowner has, and they're going to be very happy with it. So now that we have gone through the project and met the expectations of what the homeowner is looking for, what we're going to do is we're going to take all the big circuits off of here and we're going to move all the big circuits that the system cannot power into what's called an essential loads panel. So that way when the grid fails, they will lose power to all these big circuits like your air conditioner, the electric dryer, the electric stove and oven, but they'll still have power to all their lights, their blower motor for their furnace, which is a big deal here in Utah. And they'll also have power to the rest of the home, like all the outlets and everything like that. So ideally when the grid fails, they can run their entire house almost like they have the grid. The only thing that they wouldn't have, again, are those bigger loads. And so that's where we go over and set the proper expectations. This is Sam. Sam's going to tell us a little bit about his experience of why he got solar and, kind of his journey through starting to want to get a battery to what brought him to now. What made you want to get solar in the first place?
Mostly it was for emergencies, just so that, if the grid's down, we have a source of power and we can power our home and keep the fridges and freezers running. And so what we did is we ended up getting this inverter that has this plug on the side of it so that you have the option of not sending power back to the grid so that you can then use this power that's coming from your solar. And we thought that would be good enough, but we really didn't think through being able to make it through the night when there isn't sun up and when we don't have the power coming through. And so we ended up deciding we needed a battery, so we got like a portable battery. The plan was to just charge the portable battery from this plug. It ended up being such a hassle to try to deal with that. Everything was manual. The battery wasn't very big.
And just to be clear on these SMA Sunny Boys, what he's talking about is when the grid fails, you have the option of turning on the inverter and powering a small internal inverter here to get power to this outlet, but it's pretty limited. It'll only output 1200 watts and it'll only work when the sun's out. So if the grid fails in the middle of the night, you're still going to be without power. If the grid fails during the middle of the day, again, this will keep like a refrigerator running or something like that. But if you're planning on running like computers in your fridge and other circuits, that's just not going to be able to keep up with anything like that. But there are better ways to do it, and so that's what we're just trying to get the word out to everybody of how to build these systems and how to tie them into, even if you have an existing solar system, how to do that, or if you want to put a whole new system on, how you can do that as well.
But I appreciate that, Paulo was willing to educate us and let us know how this all works and what our options were. So it's a big deal for us.
So if you could do it all over again and start from scratch, what would you do?
I could save a lot of money. I mean, I would get with the solar array, I would just do it right from the start. I would get the right type of inverter to be able to have a battery backup system that's all tied in, automatic failover. When the grid goes down, I mean, that's the right way to do it from the start, in my opinion. Especially, if you're just installing solar for the sole purpose of being able to save money on your power bill in the long term, then maybe that's not the right solution to get the whole battery backup system. But if your intent is to try to be able to survive off grid and keep things running, and plan for emergencies, then I think this is the way to go.
How long have you had this system now?
It's been over 5 years.
Okay, and what are your average power bills from having?
I've never paid more than just the standard Connect bill. It's been $8 or $9 every month, and so we overproduce by 1,000 kilowatt hours every year. My thought is like we should be running everything off of electricity, like our cars and everything, and we should be storing our own energy, and we have $20,000 worth of solar panels on the roof. Why are we not using that energy to store it some way so that we can have it when we need it?
We just strive to try to educate people on how these systems come together and pros and cons, because every system does have limitations. Like even these systems, they do have limitations on what they can power. So it's important to ask those questions and really get an understanding of how they're going to work and how it's going to influence you in your life and your decision-making process through the buying experience as well.